Call this meeting of Jefferson County Board of Supervisors to order for Monday, May 5th.
Cinco de Mayo.
And
Cinco de Mayo.
Cinco de Mayo. I should be drinking margarita.
your wife might be since she sent you to work.
Yeah.
I would entertain a motion to acknowledge the minutes of April 25th, April 28th. Yep, April 25th and April 28th.
And 29.
Oh, is there 29th?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yes.
my bad.
So moved. Second.
Discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All right, Dwayne?
Good morning, supervisors. The bridge deck pour is scheduled for Wednesday. They're going to have a pump truck at each end of the bridge because their access road isn't dry enough that they could get a pump truck down in the center of it to work both ends, so they'll start at one end with one pump truck, and then when that one reaches the end of its limits, they'll start cycling the ready mix trucks around the other side, and that way there's no delay in it. They don't have to wait for the pump truck to make the detour around. We'll have 4 guys out there to do monitoring. You have to do air and slump and water. So,
There'll be a pump truck on each
yeah,
end.
they'll start at one end with one pump truck. And when it reaches its limit, it'll be within the range of the other one, and then they'll, so that way they can pour it all as one pour from one end to the other. It's gonna take them most of the day to get it done. But that way they're, theoretically, if they could sit in the creek, they could reach it with one pump truck. But
Have to put the cement trucks down in
Yeah.
there.
yeah, it's just, with the rains we've had, it's not a safe thought. It's better to have one, 2 trucks.
Mhm.
And they can get it done.
Yeah, so how many yards are they talking?
I can't tell you that number
I
because
just was curious.
it's, shouldn't have had my phone with me, 200 feet. 275 feet, 40 feet wide.
There's a calculator.
Or you could just wait and tell us after it was done.
No, I was just
Yeah,
curious.
I don't know off the top of my head, Joe.
Okay, it's not important.
Yeah, it's,
I make
with the sampling, it'll take them pretty much the whole day to get it done, but then they'll be done with it. Yeah. That's kind of exciting. We had our monthly safety meeting this morning, did a refresher on excavation safety through the NeoGov system that the county has. Right at an hour-long class that the guys went through, but
I can never remember that, or I'd count once in a
yeah,
while.
we didn't have donuts this morning.
Oh, well, then I didn't miss any.
You didn't miss any. Well, when I first started this, I'd buy breakfast pizza and donuts. And the guys weren't eating anything, or weren't eating everything, so then I just went to donuts and breakfast pizza on special occasions, and they were getting to the point they weren't even eating the donuts, so they were just sitting at the office and my belt kept getting shorter. So, we tried it this week without donuts and I had no complaints, so, we'll just do that going forward. But, I kind of felt it was just a nice thing to buy the guys donuts for showing up, but if they're not gonna make use of them, we'll just quit that. See
Yeah,
what else
because we wouldn't want them here.
Well, exactly.
Susie's hand.
Okay, these things are recorded. I'm not sure if Barb watches these or not, but I don't want her mad at me. But see, other than that, we're spreading rock.
If not the only thing we're.
You say about the only thing or?
Not the only thing. Yeah, there are no bulls in the vicinity.
Okay.
All dust control permit applications should be in by now. Benson Stevens is going to start next week applying dust control. So we've been working at getting those sites ready. And then we're also taking delivery of our dust control material this week. So we'll apply dust control on the detour route as well as 110th and Butternut. And other than that, we're just chugging away doing what we do. Fixing patches and rock on roads. And Pelling's supposed to be here next week. Starting in Lockridge. Actually, that'll be Norris. Doing the prep work on that, milling and doing the excavation and placing the rock.
Is Henry County done with their part of that?
They're tag teaming as part of our project. So they were doing some patchwork and prep work, but they're on our contract. And then the DOT will reimburse our farm to market account out of Henry counties.
Nice.
But yeah, the Lockridge project, Henry County's 0.8 of a mile and our 1.33 miles are not really large enough as standalone projects, but it works pretty good shoehorned in with the rest of our farm to market project. Then we're still waiting on pricing on change orders from them, but we'll just keep chugging away. Well, let's see, we've got a drill for drilling the piers on our couple of our bridges, the 117th and Buckeye, that are deteriorated. And you can test with a rock hammer to kind of see how rotten the piers are just from the surface. You can get an idea of how much rot there is in the surface, but you really don't get a good picture of it. And local LTAP, Local Transportation Assistance Program out of Iowa State, has a tool rental or tool loaning program where they have a drill that has a real small bit that you can go all the way through the piers, on the wood piers, and it has a torsion gauge on it. So you can see as you drill through actually what percentage of the pier is rotten, so you get a better idea of what its carrying capacity is. And it's got a little computer chip that you plug it in and you can do the dozen or however many piers are on each bridge, and then they'll give you a printout of each pier that you drill. So we're going to do that probably tomorrow.
Do it in-house.
Yeah, yeah, we borrowed the equipment from them and they let us use it and then give it back to them. But they've got a number of different tools that they can do that with. So kind of a nice service that I think it's LTAP, I believe, is funded, as from part of the road use tax on this percentage covers their expenses. Excited to see how that works.
So once you discover whatever, does that just tell you then, obviously, what you need to do or not do? Is that?
It gives us an idea of how accurate that the load limit is on it. So right now, I think we've only got a 11-ton load limit on that bridge, and it'll tell us if that's sufficient, if it's too low, or if it's too high. That's one of the ones we're looking at doing a bent pier modification that will help increase the load limit on that bridge, and it kind of gives us an idea of how much stress we take off of those piers with the new bents that we're going to install.
Working now.
Yes, I have a basket.
It's new.
Give it up.
They've changed Zoom.
No,
Your telecast's good now. So
Every,
fun.
every time, same one.
I will find that out after this meeting.
We don't have any options. Opt
So
out of that?
I'll look into that, but it's
Okay.
saying that we don't.
Okay.
That Zoom updated their security. Sorry, Anna.
it's all about being secure.
Yeah.
I understand.
You didn't interrupt, I
Record
asked a
it,
question.
post it, what is it they're gonna steal?
I don't know, what's
Oh,
next?
secret things.
All the secret things.
Oh, so now that we're on Zoom, we have to stop speaking about secret stuff.
No, but we do have to start over.
That's not right.
I guess that's all I have. What's on the,
Scoop shovel.
Have any questions for, Dwayne? If not, moving on, discuss and consider road reclassification for Tamarack Avenue from level B to level A. In your packet is the section out of the ordinances regarding dirt road improvements. If you have any questions, or I know you were out there and visited.
I was, and I've talked to Dwayne since doing stuff. I asked for Shannon to put a copy of this in her folder, so.
And so you have concerns or questions or,
Dwayne answered them all. I'm gonna turn it over to him and let him explain everything.
okay?
okay, all right, so the way the code reads, and I believe we have, I believe you're skipping, not a bad idea, just. Yeah, so the landowner pays for the rock. And any cross pipe that needs to be done. And then the county's basically on the hook to do all the dirt work. Design, construction, and then we're on, basically on the hook for maintenance for ever.
So is that, road, since it's been dirt for,
So I went back and I believe. Oh, no, I'm thinking of a different one. A lot of roads were turned to level B in the early 2000s. 2002, 2005, I don't remember. I didn't look on this one to see if that was one of the ones that got changed at that time. I was looking at another road that we done back in there, and there was a bunch of them in the early 2000s. So it's been at least 20 years.
so I'm gonna ask kind of two questions. One, because it's been dirt for so long, is there a lot of upgrade that we're gonna have to do to
Yes.
make it, to keep it from becoming an albatross around your neck as far as maintenance goes later on?
Yeah, well, we're gonna have to go through and do all the necessary dirt work to get it up to the county cross section, Right now, it's not a goat trail, but it's not in real good condition.
Not far from it.
Well, after 20 years, almost all our level Bs are in bad shape, but that's the nature of level B maintenance. They get graded, but over time, at the high spots, the road wears down, so you've got steep ditches or steep right-of-way ditches, and the road's kind of a narrow path down the center of that.
Do we actually have ditches on this one?
Not so she'd notice.
Okay.
Is there any specs you have to do to bring it up to grade certain?
Yeah,
Ditches and
we'd
stuff.
have to bring it to a county cross section with, the full 66-foot right of way. 6 foot. A 6 foot back slope, 6 foot ditch bottom, 6 foot floor slope, and 30-foot road top, 25, 30-foot road top. So, you know, it's not a small endeavor.
It's not a maintainer project then.
No,
is
no,
what
oh no,
it
you need the dozer and the hoe and, you know, you're gonna have, you know, what I figured we had into Palm was 1.5 miles, and I think we had about $80,000 in labor and equipment time on it, and that's at our rates, not what it would cost you to do it if you hired it done. So this is a 1/4 mile, so you know, you're gonna have $40,000 in getting it up to where you want it to be, that you can maintain it going forward.
Yeah, this isn't the first time something like that's been done, though.
No,
And they're building a house on it in there somewhere.
I'm not exactly sure what they're gonna do. Joe says they've got a,
Well, did
Trailer
anybody
down there.
contact you about borrowing dirt out of the right of way or anything?
he talked to me about cutting down the top some, I think. It's been a while since he talked about it.
Well, they borrowed dirt off of the west side of the right of way and hauled it down and put in a driveway into a field and put an intake in and stuff. And then there was some clay up where they've located an older mobile home up there. And there's clay up there to level that off and stuff too. So,
Which was my next question, if there is house on that road, then are we not obligated to provide?
Yeah, if they're going to build a house back in there, then we are obligated, I think, to provide emergency service access to it. Or, you know, your other option is to vacate the right of way and make a driveway. Yeah, so,
well, we had, 5 signatures last week, and from what I could see, there's only one that was gonna benefit from it. The others was landowners around there.
yeah, that's,
Support, basically.
yeah, they have to have the adjoining landowners. It was just like we did when we were looking at 1/10, the adjoining landowners have to sign on to the improvement.
And we have to set this for a public hearing, if
Correct.
that's something.
I thought we did that last week.
Oh, did you already? Okay, okay.
They just wanted to talk about it more.
Oh, okay, sorry, got it. Thank you for that clarification.
Yeah. No, you know, when I first came down here that first week, I met with Farm Bureau, and at that time I discussed with them that, you know, with the finances of the road department being what they were, that the odds were that we'd end up, you know, over time having more level B roads, not less. So, you know, so I'm glad this is your decision. You know, it's, if they're gonna build a house in there that's going to be taxable and increase the tax base of the county, you know.
So I guess my
It's the benefit and the safety.
question would be to you and then to the board. Or thoughts. Right now, we're operating on an if. They're gonna build a house in there, or they've moved in a mobile home, if they're gonna live there, or whatever. And I think maybe we need an answer to that question, and then something that you said just a second ago that piqued my interest. If we were to vacate that road,
Mhm.
what kind of problem does that cause? Are we aware, in other words, what I'm asking is that if we vacate that section of road to them and let them incur all of the expense and the maintenance, will it hamstring or impact anybody else? I.e. what we did out west several years back,
That's what we'll have to determine at a public hearing.
right?
But have you been out there, Dwayne?
No, I was gonna go out the other day, but somebody
Right.
told me it might be a little bit muddy. So,
Yeah.
And
I went out last Monday after the meeting, just curiosity. And there's landowners on the north end of that, but it's level going out that way. Coming south, you got a big hill to come up over, so common sense, they'll go out the other way, and the landowners that is up there, their homesteads are further north, so they wouldn't want to come south with it anyway. Be more for emergency access than anything, so.
I guess for me personally, you know, if, you know, we're almost, since we don't know it, I think we need to know, but logic would dictate, or common sense or whatever, that they're gonna build something in there because they wanted to have access to that road. Or they're gonna live in there in the mobile home, whatever the case may be, or live in the mobile home until they get it built, you know, all of those. And if that's indeed the case, then I think we should explore closing the road and letting them incur all the expense. Or at least have that conversation. And if that's not what they're going to do, then I personally don't see why we incur the expense, period.
Well,
That's just my thought.
But I can think of it, it's one instance out by me where it's almost the same thing. You put a gravel on that road and
Everybody uses it,
I don't know about everybody, but it's used.
right?
But I think we have to treat people the same way, treat them fairly.
Granted, but if there's nothing going on out there other than they have the desire to have the road rocked, in other words, are we building a house? That changes the dynamic.
Then I suppose it's up to Elaine to go ask him.
That's
Yeah, and I agree with that.
you know.
But I just think we have to be very fair here.
And then what I'm saying from there is that if they're building a house, then we are obligated to do one of two things, and that is either upgrade the road at our expense or vacate the road and let them do whatever they want to do.
At one time, several years back, an adjoining county had a policy that if you bought land down a dirt road to put in a house, you incurred all the expenses to bring it up to grade. It would be no expense on the county. This is an adjoining county, and I don't know how they've handled it in this county. All I would go on is what we have here in
Right.
front of us.
And, you know, they're abiding by that as far as that part goes. I'm just looking at $40,000.
Yes.
And I would at least like, and I think Susie agreed. I would at least like to know what their plans are before,
I agree with that. Otherwise, we're just sitting here
yeah,
beating a dead whatever.
yeah. I mean, you know what it's gonna take to bring the road up.
Okay.
That's why you have a public hearing, is to get those questions asked and answered.
Right, so I just would like to know what the entity that specifically asked about upgrading the road, yes, they've got the other property owners on board with it, but what was, there's a single entity, right, that has a plan?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd like to know what that plan is.
You were digging back. Do you have any idea when that road was relocated and not going through the Polishville
No, I don't.
property? Okay.
We should have a record of that in our files,
I was
but
just
I'm not
curious.
positive that we do. You know,
Okay.
there's a lot of things that should be in our files that aren't.
Okay.
But that one might even be
Would it be
recorded
I was gonna say.
because they would have about had to have purchased the land to join it, but that's how long ago it was.
Well, I was just curious because I didn't realize they had relocated it till I went out there the other day. I went up past the cemetery. Well, there's brush in there. So,
Yeah, actually, I think we might have that in our files because I think I remember seeing that
okay.
where they.
Well, I think what I'll do is I'll make a motion that we ask Dwayne to reach out to the property owner to determine what their purpose is.
I'll second that motion.
Any
Have you had contact with the landowner?
I have not. He calls in occasionally And, you know, I told him that, you know, I told him the process of what was involved in these happened. You know, the public hearing procedure and the or the request form.
I presume that it's, one of our Amish
Yeah.
neighbors.
Yeah.
And so getting hold of them is somewhat difficult sometimes, so,
But they should be here at the
Dwayne's
public hearing.
resourceful. He can figure that out.
okay. Anyway, I have a
I was
motion and a
gonna- I was-
second.
Gonna have Thomas do it.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
All right.
Aye.
Thank you. Discuss and consider hiring Rick Giverson at Jefferson County Secondary Roads Department. Dwayne?
No, we had like to thank the board for allowing us to fill this position. We advertised for applicants, had 4 interviews, and this person appeared to be the best out of the bunch. They were all good candidates. He has experience. He's been at the city water department, so Melanie's not gonna be happy. That'll be 2 that we've stolen from her in the last year. But he's got experience with trenches and pipes and plus his Class A CDL, so he's a good ad for the department. And he'll be starting out at level A and work his way through the steps.
Motion to approve.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Discuss and consider, excuse me, accepting railroad crossing grant for 205th. Oh, you're just busy to be here, aren't you?
Yeah, I think the board's already approved that, but the DOT called or sent out requests just to verify that now that they do in fact have the money in hand, to make sure that we wanted to proceed with that. And I have not yet heard back from the railroad on the Velvet Bridge, but Jacob I can't pronounce his name, Rezwinski, indicated that the railroad would entertain that and went to his superiors to see what kind of dollar value they had on closing that old 6-ton bridge. They was going to get back to me as soon as they had an answer to that. You guys to consider. As soon as I have it, I'll let you know.
Again, what's our portion? We don't know yet.
We're gonna be in the $50,000 range. It's where the DOT picks up 60% of the cost, the railroad pays 20 and we pay 20.
And we're paving approaches.
Yeah. Thank you.
Just for the record, let's go ahead and make a motion to approve this. If that's what you want to do.
Well, it needs something undo it. So I'll make the motion.
It does need something done to it, but are we gonna close it?
No, we have voted against that last week.
Okay, that's what I thought.
Yes, we did.
Well, this is about accepting the grant, if that's the direction you want to go. You don't have to.
And it's gonna cost the county what?
About $50,000.
Oh, I thought that was the grant money.
No, the DOT's going to spend about $200,000. And then the railroad's gonna spend 50 and we'll spend 50.
That's if it's closed.
No,
Right,
no,
to
no,
fix
no,
it.
that's to fix it. So,
And the last time it was fixed, which I assume was several years ago, they closed it for a year.
well, this time, well, Their goal is to have it closed for 2 weeks,
Oh, sure it is. Yeah.
but in that 2 weeks, they've got to. Basically, what they'll have to do what they need, in my opinion, is shut down one rail. So they will have the rail traffic, because that is their incentive to have it closed for a short time, because what they're doing is they're going down 2 feet below grade. They're gonna put a 10-inch asphalt lug or 15-inch asphalt, 10-inch asphalt pad under it. So they'll do the pad underneath one set of rails, and then that will have a sub drain off the side of it to pick up the water.
Mhm,
Then they bring in 2 foot of ballast,
mhm.
and then they put the ties, the concrete panels and the rails across that. And then they do a 15-inch by 5 foot asphalt lug on the outside of the concrete panels. And then 9 inches of asphalt out 35 feet.
And hope it works this time.
Yeah. Well, and then it'll have the concrete panels in it, not timbers.
Yeah.
So,
So if we don't do anything, they're not gonna do anything.
correct.
Comments?
Sound like we better fix it.
Yeah.
Otherwise it just gets worse.
So we have a motion.
We have a
I'll
motion.
second the motion.
We have a motion and a second. I do have a question. Where's the money coming from?
Well, it'd be nice if it came from their supervisors.
I see. Now, I reiterate, where's the money coming from?
It's gonna come out of the road department.
I
but
was hoping maybe
But
for
it'd
the
be-
market might.
Unfortunately, that's not an approved farm to market use.
There's a lot of farm to market traffic.
Yeah.
We heard that last week.
So the paving of the approaches is not on the market. So
Because it's a rail maintenance.
well, we're actually maintaining the road because that going up and over and whatnot tears the road up. Is that not?
Yeah.
Yeah, we have a motion and a
Yeah,
second.
we get as much out of the farm to market as I can.
Yeah.
They don't.
So are they gonna do any grading to get water to drain out of there when
Yes,
they do
that
this?
is part of the requirements, is they have to grade the ditches so the water drains away. You know, they have sub drain under the road, and any additional grading needed to channel the water away from the drainage.
Who owns that alfalfa field on the north side of the road? You do. Okay.
Joe, we need to.
We have a public hearing
Yeah, no, I,
started 4 minutes ago.
So we've got a motion and a second. Any
Yes.
further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
We got a public hearing, it's only reason portion. So I have a public hearing on the burn ordinance. Would entertain a motion to enter into the open public hearing.
so moved.
Second. We said we'll call on that. All those in favor say aye.
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 Public hearing. This is on the burn ordinance. Brett did text me this morning that he was unable to be here. He does not have any concerns about the burn ordinance. He's worked with Elizabeth. And so is there any questions or concerns or anything from public online about the burn ordinance? Number six.
35.
Okay.
I had some conversation with some residents. They were inquiring, and I told them it just makes common sense. If you're gonna burn, you should notify the fire department that you're going to burn. Put a stop to this. Well, a couple of them made a comment that they've already had somebody call in that they were burning. Well, it was a false run for them. So I think this makes sense if we can get people to just call in and tell them when they're gonna burn. I know I'm guilty of it. I'll light the fire and, oh yeah, after it's burning, then I call.
Well,
Done
and
it more than once.
I agree, Joe. It makes absolute sense on several fronts. One, it would save the property owner money because, you know, if there's a burn ban on at the moment, then, you know, there's penalties for burning during the burn ban. And you may not be aware that there's a ban, but if you call and say, hey, Josh, is there a burn ban? And he goes, well, I don't know, call the fire department. But the point is that Brad or somebody from the fire department, when you call, will tell you. And then it's just good policy to let the fire department know that you're going to burn.
Yes.
So I don't hear anything from the public, so I would entertain
I got one more question.
well, okay, but we do that after we close the
Yeah.
public hearing.
All
That's
right,
right.
So I would entertain a motion to close the public hearing.
So moved.
second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay. Now we're setting a date and time for the second public hearing. We can discuss and consider waiving the second and third hearings. So you had a question, Joe?
Will this ordinance be published in the public notices in the paper, the complete ordinance, so people are aware or not?
I don't know the answer to that.
Is it necessary or not? It doesn't need to be answered now.
That would just be good practice, wouldn't it?
Well, it's gonna take quite a bit of money to publish that. That's what I'm
Well,
thinking.
you're not wrong there. So much a line.
Yeah, that's done.
But we make it available to the public,
Yes.
you know, prior.
And it's
to-
posted on our website.
It's posted, yeah.
Okay,
And you have to have it available in our office.
all right, thank you.
I have a question on that, just. For
Though you can't
clarification.
burn ambulances.
Actually, I'm pretty happy with what we have right now. We're good. Will they contact the fire department directly or will they contact dispatch? Maybe that's just nitpicky, but
I think it's dispatch. It's my understanding, and it will help alleviate those concerns that Joe
Says
just raised.
Shall provide notice to Jefferson County Dispatch
Okay.
Center by calling the non-emergency phone number for Jefferson County Dispatch, providing all of the required burn information. We can also include the sheriff's cell phone number. Just kidding.
Well,
We would
because
love
when
that.
people call in then and, you know, report a fire, they're gonna be calling
Mhm.
dispatch. too,
Yep.
So dispatch.
That's why I
will
was
be-
asking.
Yep.
So the first item on the burn ordinance is, well, I guess maybe we should, before we set a date and time for a second public hearing, we need to discuss whether or not we want to waive the second and third hearings, since that's on the agenda. Or if you want to have a second hearing, and then we would set a date and time. It's funny how that works.
There was nobody here this morning for the public hearing. Are they not aware of it or are they accepting what we have done? Should we go through the second
If that's what-
hearing
if that's
and
what-
then,
Yeah, if that's what the board wants to do, that's perfectly fine. That's
just my thought, should we do the second? A lot of times they don't do that, but I haven't had any people upset about it that's talked to me.
We've discussed it for several weeks and we've moved it because of one reason or another, but there's no reason not to have it. But the only thing is, we're gonna have to put that out, what, 20 days, 2 weeks?
Oh.
Yeah, at which point your burn time and ditches and stuff will be over with.
Yeah.
You know, I think we should just waive the second and third hearing.
If you're comfortable with that, I'll accept it.
So is that a motion?
It is.
Was that a second?
Yes, I'll second it.
Okay, to waive the second and third readings or public hearings, correct?
Mhm.
Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
I,
Aye. So there's no need to set a date and time for a second public hearing, so. Number 6, discuss and consider burn ordinance. Motion to approve.
Motion to approve as written.
Second,
I'll second that.
all those in favor say aye.
I,
Oh, same sign.
Aren't you gonna read it?
I read the pertinent part. It says be sure and thank Elizabeth, which I did, and to notify the dispatch center. So we voted on that, right?
Yep.
Okay,
Sorry, didn't mean to interrupt.
no, that's all right, that's all right. Meet with ambulance director. I'm happy you're still here.
It's beer's a little wider now.
Yeah, it happens. I don't really have a lot to report, so,
That's your wife's fault or?
what, this?
Is it
Oh, a lot of things, but yes, she's definitely a contributing factor. Um,
Well,
sure,
she's on.
she's not online, she's at work. Transports for April, we had 161 calls with 162 patient contacts. We did 29 transfers for Jefferson County, and then we took a transfer for Atumwa last week.
When you do a transfer for another entity, um, is there some kind of pay agreement or do we just accept what the insurance?
We just accept that what the insurance pays. And then, so our process there, if we do take a trip for another service, we'll call our hospital, make sure they don't have anything pending. And we've turned down transfers because they did have something in the ER that was a potential transfer. So, that's our process. I think it works pretty well. And then what was it, Friday, we ended up taking 2 trips, out of town simultaneously and, had another staff come in and stay back and cover 911. So, they were on a trip already and then a patient came in with a stroke. And so we were able to bring somebody else in and then I just covered 911s and, they took the transfer. So we do what we can with what we have and, you know, yeah.
Oh, I appreciate the willingness of folks to come in and
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
cover.
Yeah, it definitely helps. Staffing, we have basically a full-time and a part-time opening. Haven't really had too many hits on the postings we have online. But we're still trying. Other than that, we're still working on the lab certification for the troponin test. That's quite a lengthy process. I think we have, if our medical director isn't certified or qualified to play that role, I have another physician who would, who does meet the qualifications that would serve the role as our lab director. And then we could move forward with this. So just baby steps, trying to get it done. Most of the paperwork's in place already. We just need to finalize some things and then we can start to do that. So we have a contact with the university. She said, as long as everything is, if we have our ducks in a row, we're not going to be denied for it. So it's pretty much a shoe in as long as we can get those people in place. Other than that, no updates on the training program or that application is still at the state. Again, with that though, she said, as long as we have everything in place, we should be good to go. So I'm moving forward. I'll be at a conference later this month as it's a accreditation workshop that I already attended once, but it was outside of their parameters, so I have to go again. So that'll be May 28th and 29th. And other than that, we're still just baby steps moving forward.
Going back to regarding transfers, one of you had any further communication with JCHC regarding,
No,
okay,
not yet,
do we need to set something up?
probably.
Okay. And then going back to making the transfers, I know we only get paid for loaded miles, insurance, Medicare, Medicaid. But when we submit the miles, do we submit based on the fact that we had to go?
We can only get loaded miles.
Okay. But we are getting mileage from Ormix or Atomo Regional Health to
Right.
the U or wherever you're
Right.
going.
Yep.
But we're not getting anything to go over there to pick up.
Correct.
Okay.
And we've only had. I think we've only taken 3 trips for other service. We took, this is the second one from Atumwa, and then we took one from Davis County. Several
Well, and I
weeks
know they do
ago.
it for us too, so
Yeah,
I was just curious how the
right,
financial end of it worked.
yeah, just the same as it is here, we get loaded mileage and we get. Whatever insurance pays out for the care we provide.
Any questions for Josh?
Yeah, I see on Chamber Talk, you're gonna have an open house.
Yeah, we're gonna have an open house on Tuesday, the 20th. So the 18th to the 24th is EMS week. So it's just an opportunity for us to brag about ourselves that we really don't like to do, but I think it's a good opportunity to just open our doors and let people come in and see what we're doing, see what changes we've made. And
Open the doors, literally.
yeah, literally open it, well, prop them open so nobody gets locked out. And then, yeah, so that'll be the 20th in the afternoon, evening. And then on the 24th, we're just gonna do like just a family day for our crew. So, we can just hang out and have a good time. And those will both be at the base, so.
If you don't talk yourself up, nobody's gonna do it for you.
Oh, that is so true. That is just not something
What are you gonna do on the
we're
24th?
good at.
Grill some hot dogs?
Probably, yeah. Hamburgers, hot dogs.
I'm happy to come and help.
Cool. Happy to have you.
See?
Come on down.
You're looking for a free
It'll be a good
meal.
Nobody, just for the record, nobody asked you what you saw.
You can come on the 20th too.
I just want to she's a good cook. I'll let somebody else eat first.
We'll save his.
Yeah,
Special.
separated.
Yeah.
Wasn't on the ground long.
Yeah.
Where she gobbled.
Never mind.
Well, never mind.
Yeah.
I think it's a good thing for you to do. Thank you.
Thanks, Josh.
Yeah.
As a side note, Shannon says yes, after they pass, the full ordinance gets published.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay, discuss and consider a resolution of the Board of Supervisors of Jefferson County 28, the termination of the Mental Health Agency of Southeast Iowa Region. That is in your packet, and it's much shorter than what's on the agenda, actually. Just being. Just so everybody knows, that the state took over mental health, they've dissolved regions and moved into districts. And the counties no longer technically will fund the mental health at all as of July 1 of 2025. And so this was a 28E agreement that we had with the Seal region, which was an 8-county region. And so that region is being dissolved, and that's what this termination agreement is for. It's probably as clear as mud, but so I would make a motion to approve the termination of the Mental Health Agency of Southeast Iowa region.
Second.
Discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
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 All same sign.
Because the state's done such a bang up job with mental health.
Oh, yeah.
Expect great things.
Right.
Condensed is a good
Copies.
word.
Yeah.
Discuss and consider water treatment for boiler in the courthouse. That agreement is there, is that closed loop agreement that Dave talked about the other day about the chemicals. 6 treatments of $150 each and 1 treatment of, one water treatment is, water treatment and service 6 times, $150 each, and 1 Kim Search treatment of 363.
I think
Provide the
that's,
above product and equipment to the customer in quantities marked to use for monthly annual payment of $125. Wait a minute, no,
105.25.
yeah, $105.25 a month, okay. So 600, 900, 1,263, is that what I got? 6 times 150? That's 900.
yep,
Mhm.
So for a total of $1,263 at $105.25 a month.
Mhm.
Dave talked about it was necessary for preservation of the pipe, so I moved to do this.
Now, and I can tell you that we spent an inordinate amount of money completely rebuilding that boiler system down there, and this is infinitely cheaper than what it cost to redo that boiler.
I do have a question.
Sure,
Who is Kim Search and where are they located?
the young man came in, Ethan Moore,
Mhm.
and I sicked him on Dave. So he came in and it was Monday afternoon. And I said something about Dave would be here tomorrow, maybe
Mhm.
Tuesday, and went from there. And I don't have an answer to your question, but Patty is looking it up as we speak.
Texas,
What?
Texas.
I was under the impression it was the guy that's been working on the boilers.
No,
It's not.
no,
Oh, I thought it was.
no. He's from here. When I say from here, I mean.
This
he's-
area.
He's the representative for this area,
Oh,
NCH Corporation, right? Oh, and that's, maybe you did the paper. Yep, that's it.
Texas.
So we can put this on hold if you want more information. We can have Dave reach out to him and have him come.
I withdraw my motion then. So I was under the impression it was with the ones that's been doing all the boiler work.
No, but
Okay,
Dave,
I'm wrong.
Dave has actually communicated with him.
Okay, well,
I just feel we need to check people out a little bit that we're getting services from.
Okay. So I'll have Dave reach out, see if he can either zoom in or come and meet us.
Whatever.
if he's in the area, yes.
Yep, we can certainly do that. Yeah.
Can I please give you my budget amendment, because I have a Zoom meeting I need to get to.
Oh,
First one.
Well, I was requested to be here, so I'm just, I gotta go to my own meeting.
Okay,
Sorry.
I'm sorry, I knew that. I should.
That's all right.
so, yeah, I don't care.
Yeah, all it is, I requested a budget amendment. I requested a budget amendment for emergency preparedness. Because we're purchasing 2 handheld radios with, public health emergency preparedness regional funds. And so, and that line item, I usually put like $5,000 in the preparedness line item. So I was given the opportunity to purchase 2 handheld radios. The radios are here. We're waiting on some little adapter thing. I hope the guy gets here. Who knows? It could be on a slow boat. I don't know. Anyway, it's like,
Not out of China.
well, I ordered them a long time ago. I mean, like in February. So that's the reason for my budget amendment. It's just a pass through
Yeah.
to pay for that purchase. That's all it is. I'm not expending any money. Now, I probably won't even need the whole amount, but like I told Shannon, if there's another object or something, piece of equipment that I could buy, I didn't want to run too quick, too
Yeah.
close to, and then go over, but we only expend that money if we're gonna recoup those dollars, so it's not like it's costing anybody any money, it's just a pass through is all that is. So,
She did explain that.
yeah,
last
yeah,
week.
but, so I just wanted to
Yeah.
be here, because I was requested, anybody that was getting a budget amendment needed to be here, and sorry, I gotta get ready for a Zoom, so,
Okay.
anything else, any questions about it?
Nope,
No, okay,
I knew what you.
Great.
Was a pass through.
yeah, okay, great,
We're just
thanks.
happy to see you, Chris.
Yeah, yeah, sorry, sorry I can't stay, I'm just, not that I don't wanna stay, but
Well, it was for the good of the order. that you-
it was for the greater good, it was for the greater good, yes, thanks, have a good day.
So. I assume Dave's here, what?
That's just the original.
Oh, sorry, my bad. No, no, we're good. So I will make contact with Dave by A. Discuss and consider owner unknown parcels going to tax sale. So real quickly, Joe and I were leaving and
Right, Joe.
Mark was unable to be here this morning, but I'm gonna let. What he said to us was that it would be 2027 before we would inherit any of these properties if we bought them at tax sale,
That's correct.
so.
This came up too, just to give a little background, because there is an individual who owns property that's adjacent to the Skunk River. And then when the river kind of moved, I guess there was some more property that kind of was created, I guess, for lack of a better term. So that individual has been using it as his own and wanting to sell all of his property, including that property, which is technically not owned by anyone at this time. And so the individual who's going to be helping him sell that property contacted the county, wanting to know if the county could help them acquire that property. So basically, we had the discussions about what that would look like. There are two options. I eventually just said that they would want to contact an attorney and maybe quiet title to the property. It would be faster. The county wouldn't be involved in it. Alternately, of course, it could go to a tax sale, but in that case, there's no guarantee that individual would be able to purchase, would be the purchaser, and it would take a long time. So for owner unknown properties, if the county is interested in purchasing them, then yeah, we can move on to tax sale, and then the county can be the purchaser. If there are specific individuals who are interested in the properties and they've been treating them as their own, I'm gonna go ahead and continue to recommend that they get an attorney and they just quiet title to them. So I don't know if you guys have any questions about that, but.
Well, in most cases, I don't know that we would really have a use for it if we put it on the tax rolls. We would be ahead of the game. I mean, there may be there's I don't know, a whole boatload of unknown owners out there because of different things.
There's a whole list of them.
Okay, well, let's see a boatload.
Does it show their tax value there too? Because some of them just aren't taxed at all. I mean,
That's
the
what we
ones
got
that,
from Mark.
okay,
Yeah, I mean, it shows what's technically, I guess, what's owed against them, right? Interest that's accumulated,
Yeah, but it got the legal description there, but no
right?
how many acres or anything about.
and of course, something to keep in mind is that if we go through the process of listing them for sale, I mean, well, it is a process and it does cost some money to, provide notice, which we would have to publish because we don't know if there's anybody who has ever owned the property. So, that's just something to keep in mind. I recognize that over time it does accumulate and add up, but.
Well, and again, what Elizabeth has said and what Mark has said, it'd be 3 years before the county would acquire any of these anyway. And then, like you said, to go back through the process of, once we acquire it, then selling them, get back on the tax rolls, so. And right now, it's just. I think the process would be, I guess the question I would have, Elizabeth, maybe this is more from Mark. So let's just say this 12 acres we're talking about, I think that's where this particular strip is, I think 12 acres. So right, you would better. The quiet, yeah, it was 12 acres, right?
Between three sections, that's.
Yeah, so. Do they have to pay the taxes that currently, and the interest and everything that's outstanding? If they,
If they quiet title to
Yeah.
it. I don't know the answer to that. I don't do, obviously real estate's
Right.
not my area of expertise, but, I don't know if they establish that they've been utilizing the land, and my understanding is this particular individual has been farming it, so.
yeah,
That makes intuitive sense, but I wouldn't say
see,
definitively.
here's one, for example, I'm just looking at it going down through, almost $1,700. Here's another one at 1,027. I hate to be, 1,520, 1,230, 1,340, 1,770,
That's some sizable acres of
2,395. So they're being assessed, and there's penalties and stuff that. And I would think we probably would be willing to waive the penalties, I don't know. I don't know how you can penalize somebody that never owned the land, but I don't know, maybe I'm getting too deep in the weeds on it, but nonetheless.
Well, if somebody quiet title, then maybe they would have to pay the back taxes on that. If we sell them at tax sale, there's no one who's gonna be paying out those, like obviously the individual who purchases it, unless it's the county. But then it's kind of just gonna wipe the slate clean and then go forward from there.
Because a grand total of $19,819 is owed
Mm.
on these properties. So I'm not sure what it was that we were. So it says discuss and consider owner unknown parcels going to tax sale. So I guess the question is, do we want them to go to tax sale? That is the question. Or, and if they go to tax sale, I guess I want to ask, so this individual that's in this real estate agent or whatever that inquired about this particular piece of property where there's some unknown attached to it.
Mhm.
Would that, if it went to tax sale, would that prevent them from doing the quiet title? Until after June? In other words, if it didn't sell, then they could do the quiet title?
Well, I guess, it would make it a lot messier. But my understanding is that they were wanting to get it done sooner rather than later. So, because the individual wants to sell.
Sure.
So hopefully in this case, that is not
My
a
preference is to
question.
get it back on the tax rolls.
Of course.
Or whatever process would be the easiest to accomplish that.
And I think ideally too, get it back on the tax rolls and not have the county have to do anything, right? If it's
yeah,
an individual.
exactly.
So, and we can't file a quiet title action because as of right now, we don't have any interest in the property. Because
Right.
we don't own it.
So I'm wondering if we shouldn't, I don't know. Whether you can publish these? You know what I'm asking? So
Tax
that,
sale,
huh?
published for tax sale?
Well, we're talking about publishing for tax sale, we do that, but what I'm saying is that unknown, and then let people,
We have to publish for notice.
yeah,
Yeah, because we don't know.
yeah.
Well, if they're up along the river, they're probably landlocked anyway with the adjacent owners and there'd be no access, so each
I know this
adjacent owner is
particular
gonna
piece of
want.
property that we're discussing is that way, because
Hmm.
Yeah.
Abby looked it up for me.
Yeah, we could providing adjacent owners notice.
So,
Like this specific piece is here
Mhm.
and all three of those parcels are owned by the same person.
Okay, well,
I think that's probably the one
it's
that's,
landlocked.
yeah.
So,
It's
I just
9
don't know.
acres,
Um,
9.7.
how much, say 9?
9.7
I don't
acres
think
for
we-
this specific piece and that bill is $1,500.
if we move to put them up for tax sale, does anything change if they don't sell? So I guess that's what I'm asking. So if we put them up for tax sale, not this particular piece, but if we put them up for tax sale and they don't sell, then later on, somebody who has an interest, would they just still be able to do a quiet title?
Mhm.
So what's the board want to do? Leave sleeping dogs lie or try and,
Well, this particular person needs something done if he's selling his property.
right. But the person who purchases the property could later on do a quiet title. This individual is wanting to do a quiet title so that they can, shall we say, reap the benefits.
Yeah.
and it's along the river.
My
So the
thoughts,
water has, go ahead. No,
Okay.
go ahead.
my thoughts are that it's landlocked, that if the landowners are willing to pay the back taxes, maybe they should have first chance at the property. I don't know.
But we don't have a policy in place that,
No, that's why I just still advise them to go ahead with their legal action. It'll be faster for them than having it go up to tax sale and it'll be more guaranteed. I mean, it's a guarantee. If they file a motion of quiet title as opposed to if it goes up to tax sale, they wouldn't necessarily be able to purchase or be the purchaser.
and they file that motion with who?
I don't know. We don't have to worry about that, luckily, they would just, it's on them.
It would get recorded
Yeah,
and then come through our office and work its way through the building.
So it's just a matter of,
It's an expensive process, is my understanding.
expensive
Expensive.
process
That's my understanding.
for who? The person trying to acquire it,
Yes,
okay.
I think that's why people don't typically do it.
of course. Everyone's like, I would like some property. Can you please give it to me?
Mhm.
So I don't have to pay anything. And that makes sense, but it's a
Well, we
lot
can-
more work for us to go through the whole tax sale process and it takes longer. So,
Well, we can just leave the sleeping dog lie and revisit it at a later date, and see what happens on, because if we get this other property, if they're willing to do this, I don't know, but if they're willing to do it,
I know of at least 3 situations that have come up here recently. I'm working with an attorney on one. I believe Shannon had a question and then you've had a question on one. There's only 34 in total. I don't know, I'm not inserting my opinion in any way. I don't know that I even have one, but
I'm just thinking,
I just know that people are starting to be aware of these owner unknowns.
and if they take them and put them back on the tax rolls, and it's no cost to us, I see that as a win-win. So maybe we just leave this part of it lay dormant for a while and see what happens, at least until this one particular instance maybe goes through, since they're trying to sell the property. And the subsequent buyer of the property can always do a quiet title if they want to incur the expense. We can always come back on the ones that are still hanging out there if we want to put them up for tax sale. Right?
yeah, it would just have to be sooner. I mean, just because the tax sale would happen in June and so there would need to be some publications and.
And if it goes another year. I mean, it really, when you look at this, it's a process we're going through, but unless we're going to require, unless we're gonna put them up for tax sale. Which at that point in time, the person who buys it at tax sale has to pay those taxes.
Yeah.
But if we do some other process and don't require them to pay the taxes, we'd have to develop a policy before we could do anything anyway.
Yeah, I'm sitting here thinking, Lee, if I could talk about this. This situation exists because the river is low.
Right.
What are we gonna do? You know, that's an act of God.
Yeah,
And, you know, the next guy might not want to.
yeah.
I just think it's an act of God. The river's down, the river's up. We should stay out.
I know we've got some over by.
Quick.
All along the river.
Is there a legal description, do you know, is it a varying distance that defines that line, or is it the river? Because if it's the river, they already own it,
That's right.
they should own the center.
It's because the river has moved and when it's,
It has a separate parcel number.
Yeah, it must, and there must be a legal description since it's being taxed too.
it doesn't always, and
Yeah.
that's what we're
That's-
running into, that's what I'm dealing with this attorney on. He wants me to do research and
That's what they pay surveyors for that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
But
exactly.
but they can
question
have me
still
do it
is,
for free.
does the
Yeah.
legal description reference the river as their that eastern
And
bound?
It usually doesn't, it says to the edge of the river.
So that, if it says the edge of the river, then their property, that shouldn't be a separate parcel, it
Right.
should be part of that property.
Right.
And then when the river comes back,
Some of-
technically their center of the river is their dividing line. It was kind of like Carter Lake over in western Iowa is now, if you look at it, it looks like it's Nebraska. Because the Missouri River moved after the state boundaries were changing.
Some of them use a,
Yeah, that's what they should be paying
a
a surveyor
defined
for.
amount, a distance,
Yeah.
not all of them.
Yeah.
So it's gained some on the west side, it's taken away on the east side. Has anybody complained about losing property to the river? Because wherever they gained, it's lost
That's
someplace.
Henry County.
I know, but there are probably some in Jefferson County someplace.
It happens, that's the downside of living next to a river.
Yeah,
But there are actually some unknowns that are not river lot. They're little triangle
Yes.
pieces. Whitetail Properties has some, or they're next to Whitetail Properties and that sort of thing. There's a piece that is next to some property that Jefferson County Conservation owns. So there are some out there that are, however they came unknown, I don't know. But they're not necessarily governed by the river.
And our office does, when these come up, it has happened in my time here that we've had to make some unknown because you can't find a legal description. We go all the way back to 1865 when our records stop and there's nothing there because it didn't exist. So there was a bad legal, that far along ago and
Mhm.
Maybe the survey was, I don't know. So I guess I'll go back and ask the question, do we just want to not do anything at this time?
That would be my way of thinking.
So we just make a motion to, what,
Make a motion to
not proceed
reconsider
with tax.
at a later date.
Say that again?
Motion to reconsider at a later date, if needed.
Okay.
I'll second that.
Discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Discuss, consider handbook policies. I put this on, I've been pincushion of late regarding this topic, and I've done a ton of research, and my dilemma is, we had a discussion and consider, and we authorized the use of, or the donation of vacation time here a couple of weeks ago. But it has come to my attention that our sick leave policy is not uniform throughout the county.
And I think it should
Departments.
be, yeah.
Well, I don't disagree with you at all on that. We had a department where, and I'm not gonna, the departments are relevant, we just had a department that where employees couldn't use sick leave for immediate family, even though the policy says that they can. We have a department that is allowing the donation of sick leave, well, we don't have a policy that says you can. We have a department that accumulates vacation time differently than what the handbook states. Now, the state of Iowa does not require a handbook. There's no mandatory for there to be a handbook. They recommend it, but there's no requirement for it. My question is, and more to Elizabeth, and I'm throwing her under the bus, and for that I apologize.
He's not sorry.
I understand we aren't dictating hiring policies, and the law says that our handbook, as long as it is not inconsistent with state law, and in some instances federal statute, because law enforcement, ambulance, there's certain requirements that they have under state code that not necessarily for the auditor's office, and the roads department has certain requirements. And so we're not necessarily dictating hiring policies, and the courts have indicated that we really can't dictate hiring policies. We do fund the policies, or not fund them, but the departments, I mean. But anyway, and our handbook says that, believe it or not, it says each department may establish additional policies for the purpose of handling matters applicable to their specific department. These rules shall not conflict with personnel rules established by the county and must be approved by the appropriate governing body and a copy filed with the county auditor. As far as I know, there's been no copies filed with the county auditor in any of these particular circumstances. My question, Elizabeth, is who controls the benefits?
You do.
Okay, so we can establish whatever the policies are regarding vacation, sick leave, insurance,
Yep.
that sort of thing.
Yes, yeah,
Okay,
that's correct.
for me personally, that's the big issue. And I don't know if it's really an issue, but that we establish those benefit policies. The hiring policies, you requiring a CDL or not requiring a CDL, that's your hiring policy. Whatever state certifications are required for the ambulance, for law enforcement, that's outside our purview. But that was my big question, was who controls the benefits?
That's the board.
So now if we, and it's not on the agenda today, but if we want to have a discussion and consider a change in our sick leave policy, I'm more than willing to have that discussion. I just wanted to know that I believe it has to be uniform throughout the county. I also question or ask about rules in terms of what should be obvious rules. Nepotism. Is that, can that policy be different from one department to another?
I guess you'd have to be more specific.
I'm sorry, what?
You'd have to be more specific.
Well, okay, so, our policy, our handbook, my son can't be under my direct supervision if I were to hire him, or if we were to hire him. My son worked for the Jefferson County Conservation. He worked for the Fairfield Community School District. When school was out during the summer, he worked in parks, but he was not under my direct supervision. So he was able to work for the park. But if I were the conservation officer, if I were in charge of the parks, can I have a different policy than and have him work for me? See, you're shaking your head. No, my question is, who controls that?
Well, you're ultimately the people who employ individuals. Correct?
Not according to what I read, no. We set the,
But you approve it.
we approve hiring and
Yeah.
stuff, but, and I'm not even talking about. I'm sorry,
Right.
what? What?
Rubber stamp though. Like they've determined how many roads department employees there are, or how many sheriff. What's a full-time staffed sheriff's department?
Mhm.
They've determined that if Bart wanted to add a person, they would control that aspect.
No,
But
if he
if
wants
he
to
had-
add, we have to approve that.
that's what I just said.
Yeah.
But if-
Sorry.
No, that's fine, but if if he's just trying to get his numbers back up to current, they don't, it's my understanding, they don't have control of that. Because
And
they've already established what is full-time, or what is a fully staffed
I agree with
department.
that.
so the actual individuals, even though it's just, I mean, what's the purpose of the rubber stamping then, if it's not the ability also to veto? I mean,
It's my understanding that that's how, what,
I had to have their permission to fill our positions.
but
And
you're also,
not elected,
yeah,
yeah.
you're employed, they're your boss, they're not Christie's boss.
Mhm.
And this is from,
Having a special session, I'd like it.
so
I
it says
don't
in,
think so.
there was
Are we-
a lawsuit filed by an individual, I don't know the individual, against the Lee County Board of Supervisors. The courts ruled that county supervisors lack authority to require another elected county officer to comply with their comprehensive hiring policies. An employment manual can constitute an agreement by a county board of health to follow county employment policies and procedures. However, if the parties do not identify any specific provision within the manual that will constitute a specific delegation of the decision-making authority to terminate a public health employee, this is public health. But the record only reveals the county board of health agrees to follow certain procedures and guidelines and exercise this power. There's no specific authority given to the county board of supervisors in such a county employment manual to make decisions to terminate public health employees. We don't have the authority. The Board of Health does.
That's correct.
Same with conservation. Conservation. Somewhere I have it, it doesn't, I think it's in this one. They call it the chain of command is horizontal, not vertical.
But the Board of Health is separate from the Board of Supervisors.
Yes, and so
So
is
it's not
conservation.
exactly analogous.
Conservation, Iowa Attorney General's opinion. The County Conservation Board has approval authority over employment and compensation decisions by its director regarding individual employees and assistants. The County Conservation Board may exercise its discretion to approve, deny, or modify the director's decisions regarding employment and compensation matters, but should give respectful consideration to the director's decision on these issues. No direct authority given to the Board of Supervisors, but could still indirectly impact decisions through budget. So the only control apparently that we have is budget dollars.
But you're talking about separate boards too. Are you talking about what the Board of Supervisors authority gives you over the Board of Health or the Board of Conservation? Because that's separate than
No, I'm
the
talking about
authority that you have over
everything
other
that-
elected
everything
officials
that I'm
within that.
reading states that we don't have jurisdiction over elected officials or autonomous boards.
So like for
So they
Chris,
all, go ahead.
you get to choose how many deputies she has. So if she wanted to make Darcy a deputy, you get to decide that, but once you make Darcy a deputy, you have no control over what raise Christie gives her. You have jurisdiction over it because she's a clerk currently. So if Christie wanted to give her $1 million, you could be like, no, we're not gonna allow that as a clerk, but once she moves, or if she ever moves to deputy,
Also,
You
you
don't
would
have
have
jurisdiction
jurisdiction
of that.
based on budget
Right,
too.
right.
And you are allowed, and because of compensation and benefits being a part of the budget, that's where you have
Well, but
authority
the
over
code
those.
says that, for example, and I'm gonna use, says the annual base salary of the first and second deputy officer of the auditor, treasurer, recorder, the deputy in charge of elections administration, the deputy in charge of motor vehicle registration and title division, and the deputy in charge of driver's license issuance shall each be an amount not to exceed 85% of the annual salary of the deputy's principal officer. In offices where more than 2 deputies are required, which in our office, we have more than 2 deputies over here, right? In the treasurer, okay? The annual base salary of each additional deputy shall be an amount not to exceed 80%.
and that's why he has all of his deputies at 80.
Okay, but my point is that, again, The code is establishing what the salaries will be,
Mhm.
not us. And it says the amount of the annual base salary of each deputy shall be certified by the principal officer to the board. And if the deputy's annual base salary, here's the controlling language, does not exceed the limitations specified in this subsection, the board shall certify the annual base salary to the auditor.
So what's the question?
So the question simply is that what do we actually have jurisdiction over within each of the departments? Absent, I mean, we control to some extent roads and ambulance because they're not overseen by elected officials. But all of our other departments, and Dave, of course, all of our other departments are overseen by elected officials or have autonomous boards. And so my question is, do we actually control any of the hiring policies? Are they subject to what we have in the handbook? They were part of the process, to be sure. But everything that I'm getting says that, it says right here that the court said, the board appears to have proceeded as though our system of county government consisted of central management and subsidiary departments with few exceptions. However, our statutes establish autonomous county offices, each under an elected head. And says that limits the board of supervisors' ability to impose personnel policies on deputies of other elected officials, and there are arguments that can be made to say the same is true of various county departments that are governed by quasi-independent county boards. And so I don't want to get into an arm wrestling contest with any of our elected officials, any of our autonomous boards, anybody. I just want to know whether or not our handbook, shall we say, for lack of a better word, law, or is each department under its own umbrella and can have their own hiring policies?
It depends on the policy issue, I would say. So, I mean, I thought the original question was about benefits.
Well, and that's where I started with this, and I'm
Okay.
glad to hear that. But my concern, frankly, is moving forward, if we have different policies within each of our spheres of influence, how does that affect us legally? And how do we say, we can't say, hypothetically, we can't say Acme Department and Oatmeal Department. So Acme Department says, we're going to give you can carry over 500 hours of vacation. Now, you told me that we have control of benefits, so this is not a good analogy, but bear with me. Because right now our policy is 240 hours is all you can accumulate on vacation. But let's just say you can accumulate 500,000 in the oatmeal department. The Acme department wants to accumulate 500. Well, okay, so they move to that. Can we say, well, you can move to that, but we're not going to fund that 500, that additional 260 hours?
Yes.
Okay, that's what I'm saying is that, so we need to view our budgets differently moving forward. And I think from the auditor's office, we're going to need more detail in terms of, so that when we're looking at salaries and benefits, that we're not getting too deep in the weeds. That's all I'm saying, is because it doesn't look like we've got a lot of control other than the purse strings.
Well, and then also regarding that catastrophic leave question, which I think is maybe what inspired this
Yeah,
conversation. Iowa Administrative Code talks specifically about being able to donate vacation time only,
Right.
not sick hours. So that's something that you can establish. It's supported by Iowa code too. So I would say then,
Yeah,
you know,
'cause it
not
does say
only is
here-
it a board policy, but it's
Yeah.
also,
and thanks to Christie, it says donated leave means vacation leave.
Yeah.
That's Iowa code. Now, I'm not saying that the board can't. Elizabeth has done it, once again, she's bailed me out here, she's said, we have jurisdiction over the benefits policy. So that doesn't mean the board can't have the conversation and make a decision and make a determination. I'm all for having that conversation. I just don't want each department to have a different benefits package. I want everybody to use the accrual method because that's what it says in the handbook when it comes to vacation. I want everybody to have 240 hours of accrued vacation because that's what it says in the handbook. We can change that. Okay, thank you, Elizabeth. I appreciate you.
Mhm.
That's all that was my,
Yeah, I wasn't sure where you were going, Paul.
I-
Because, you know, you were sitting, talking about the departments that were public health, the conservation,
yeah.
but there've been instances where the board can dissolve public health.
Yes,
And
that's
been
true.
done.
You're
So
absolutely
that's
right.
their benefits, they're not benefits,
But what I'm.
their money plus
Yeah,
being
but
able to
where I've
dissolve.
gotten pushback from departments
Yeah,
is you don't have the authority to do that. I'm an elected official, or I have my own board, or whatever, and I get to reading this stuff and courts decisions,
yeah,
and clearly,
we do.
I don't think that's the case, other than what I really wanted to hear, huh?
Other than financially, that's
Yeah.
what you have. to
And the
do.
benefits package.
Mhm.
But your elected officials, if they wanted to, could hire somebody, or the, with the boards, they could hire someone in with vacation time. It doesn't say in the handbook that you do that. It lays out.
What do you mean hire somebody in with vacation?
You could hire somebody in and say, well, they have experience, they came from this county and they're a benefit to, an asset to us. I'm gonna hire them in with 4 weeks of vacation. An elected official could do that if they were hiring somebody, but your handbook doesn't say that.
Right, our handbook doesn't permit it,
No.
but we don't have to pay it. In other words, what I'm saying is I go back to what I just said. Our handbook says you can only accumulate 240 hours.
Mhm.
So what you're saying to me is you as an elected official,
Like if I went to Keokuk County or Washington or
Right.
whatever, that would be something I would negotiate. I
Sure.
wouldn't be leaving here with 0 vacation hours and starting over.
Right.
Nope. I
and,
would say I want 4 weeks, that's what I have.
right, and according to the code, as long as you're being paid within the limits that the code sets out, it says,
I'm just saying that's a policy
Shall.
that is in that elected officials, they can do that.
Right.
Even though your handbook doesn't say that.
right, the board shall not certify a deputy's annual base salary which exceeds the limitations of this subsection. But if it doesn't, then we shall certify it. I get where you're coming from. I mean, we establish in our handbook somewhere here. They do have it somewhere. We establish in our handbook what the health insurance is and how we administer that. We establish the holidays, the vacation leave and accrual, full and part-time employees shall accrue vacation leave on a prorated basis from their start date. Annual vacation shall be accrued for hours worked or in paid status, not including overtime as follows. And it establishes how you accumulate vacation. You may negotiate something. But again, do I have to approve it? I don't have to pay it. I don't know.
But are your departments coming to you and saying,
No, they're
I'm
not.
hiring this person in and they're getting 4 weeks?
But Darcy's going to know whether or not we hired Abby in and we hired her in with 4 weeks vacation on the books.
But if she can share that with you,
Well, I would like to think she would.
but that's under the elected officials hiring process.
And what the court said, I'll just. From a practical standpoint, it makes sense for everyone to be operating on the same set of policies. It's more efficient, easier to be consistent in enforcement, overall easier from an administrative standpoint. But to make a countywide handbook work, you have to achieve consensus among the departments. And we invited every department in when we were doing the handbook. And it says, you're right, supervisors lack authority to require another elected county officer to comply with their comprehensive hiring policy. And may not unreasonably refuse to approve any appointments made by other elected county officers. We still can refuse to make that appointment on that basis. I don't believe that would be construed as unreasonable. We may end up ultimately having an arm wrestling contest. We've not had that issue in the past. I'm not anticipating that issue moving forward, but this is why I got totally upside down on the issue. Because from one perspective or point of view, our handbook belonged in that blue bin. Because if everybody's not going to abide by it, there was no point in spending $10,000 over the last however many years, because what's between Allers and Cooney and Jack and Paul and whomever else we had do handbooks, we spent well over $10,000 not to abide by it and not to have consistency between the departments. But at the very least, we do have jurisdiction over the benefits. So, and again, I'm more than willing, even if I'm not willing, but I mean, I'm more than willing to have a conversation if the board wants to look at sick leave policy. And because that's how we determined, now it was a prior board to be sure, but I was on the board when we had conversations with the road department. That's how we determined the 30%. After 15 years of employment and eligible for IPER's retirement, we would pay you 30% of your sick leave. Prior to that conversation, it didn't happen, and then it went countywide. That's also how we arrived at the conversation when you had 120 days accumulated, that we would pay you for 6 of those days at the end of the fiscal year, and that went countywide. The board of supervisors made that determination. But I was concerned, I didn't believe that we could have 14 different benefit packages out here, including the health insurance. So, but Elizabeth has indicated we have jurisdiction over the benefits package. And so, anyway, I digress. And again, if here in the future, we want to do something regarding donation of sick leave or not, or whatever, that's fine. But we have determined that we have jurisdiction over benefits package and the benefits package, and maybe we need to send out a memo to everybody. That the benefits package that is enumerated in the handbook shall be followed by all departments. Is that a fair assessment? Which means that if an employee has a family member sick, they can use sick leave, because that's what the handbook says, and can't be determined otherwise.
A family member, or can you be specific?
Oh, yeah, I think it's
Spouse,
sick, or
child,
immediate family member.
yeah.
Not it. Actually, separate, that's all right. Sick leave, 9.4. All full-time employees and part-time employees shall be entitled to accrue sick leave based on a prorated basis of hours, yada, yada, yada. Sick leave can be accumulated to a maximum of 120 days, which is twice as much as most counties I would have. And I'm not finding fault, I'm just saying that we're pretty good in that regard. The sick leave accrual rate on employment is 0.04615 per hour. Sick leave accruals may be used for the following reasons: personal illness or injury, which renders the employee unable to perform the duties of his or her position; illness of a member of the employee's family, including spouse, child, parent, or legal ward necessitating, thank you, the employee to be in attendance; medical, dental, or optical appointments which cannot be scheduled during non-working hours. As long as an employee is on paid leave status, an employee continues to accrue benefits, including vacation, sick leave. So in a new race, what constitutes a family member? And should be, that's all I'm asking is that all departments are required to follow the benefits package and rules as established by the handbook. We won't change those rules, that falls under our jurisdiction. Moving forward in the future, we're not dictating hiring policies, generally speaking, although we do have financial control over budgets. So if Department A wanted to hire 432 employees, I think we could probably shut that down. Just saying.
And how do we address nepotism?
We don't allow it,
Okay,
okay?
just wanted to, for the good of the order.
No, right, no, we don't allow nepotism. It's in our handbook. But what I'm
You're
saying,
talking about within departments, like Christie can't hire Abby's sister.
well, that I would have to ask for a legal definition on that because
that's
because
nepotism.
Abby is not her direct supervisor.
But they're in the same department. That's how
Right.
it should be looked at.
Right, no, I agree, but the point is that it's again, like, for example, my son Brandon worked for the Parks Department.
Mhm.
Okay, I wasn't there, I wasn't his direct supervisor.
Right. But in this
But-
case, she would be a direct supervisor. I just,
Christie would
She
be,
couldn't hire her sister.
right,
right.
Yeah, that's.
Well,
go ahead.
go ahead.
Sorry, we had a brother of one of our employees apply for this most recent position. And we had a lot of these nepotism discussions because our current employee is pretty sharp and at some point will possibly be either road superintendent or assistant road superintendent. So that was one of the things that, okay, so we were considering, okay, so do we hire this guy and then, you know, tell his brother that he has no chance of ever being in a position of management because of that?
Right.
And we didn't end up hiring his brother, but we looked at that very same thing as, you know, you run the risk of, you know, that it kind of limits your pool to some extent, but
Right.
it's also something that needs to be considered every time, you know, especially in a smaller employment pool. And is how does this affect things not only today, but going forward? And, you know, it's something that we
Yeah.
considered. It's in the handbook. It's very explicit about, you know, somebody that's in your immediate chain of command cannot be your employee. And I think that's a good thing, having worked in a
right.
family business
Yeah.
and for other family businesses,
Yeah.
you know,
Well-
it's good to not have that.
And this is also, you know, we have had circumstances in the past arise that potentially could become problematic. So I just think that, yeah, I think the nepotism thing is a good policy, but the question was, generically speaking, was, does an elected official have authority to change that policy within their own corner of the world? And I don't think it's unreasonable for us to have that policy. And in as much as we invited everybody to be part of the conversation, not necessarily that everybody participated, but we invited everybody to be part of the conversation regarding the handbook, it would seem to me that once it was approved, that it was the guiding document. And benefits package being what it is, so, okay. Beat that horse.
Other than Christie, everybody else signed on to it. Yeah, or I believe everybody else signed on to it. You were here, but you weren't here.
See, I think now knows that.
Yeah.
So, committee reports. You may have forgotten by now.
So, tall comp, and I believe we'll talk about this extensively, but,
He is.
in the morning, very good turnout.
Yeah.
In the evening, I went down to the high school.
What was that? Where was that?
Wasn't as good,
Yeah.
but I can tell you, there was a factory in town that did attend the morning session. You know, what it evolved into was the fact they have contacted Tall Cop to do a webinar for their entire operation across the United
Oh,
States.
nice.
So that started here, you
Yeah.
know, so we didn't just help our community, we helped a whole lot of people. And I think that's, other than Semco closing again, it's just, you know. Anyway, I'm done.
It's not windy today. They shouldn't be closed.
Oh, just wait, days not over. I haven't got a notion, I just looked.
Joe?
Yeah. I attended the Grove Fairfield at the convention center and gave a report on how he's doing with the Sunrise Trail and the Mazda Barns. Went to the Tall Cop, very good meeting, and I've encouraged some other, in fact, I talked to somebody out of this county that they needed to bring it in and they were very aware of it. Went to Mazda Barnes meeting Tuesday night. I'm not on the board, but I got invited to show up for representation at the Board of Supervisors. Oh, had Pathfinders on Wednesday. They had a field day up at Oskaloosa on a mine reclamation. It was very interesting. I would love to have seen the mine before they ever started on it. They had pictures there showing what it was like, but that doesn't do justice to what it is now. But I did find out that years back when they done mines, they didn't worry about the top dirt. They just started pushing. And so there's really no good dirt to bring back. They just bring back whatever's there and then try to improve it. This particular one, they had alfalfa growing on it. It was a second year seeding and it looked really good. And the landowner, it's no cost to the landowner. There's money there in the idols. There's like 12,000 acres in the county or in the state, and they've done just a shade over half of them acres, about 6,000 they've reclaimed so far. It looks great up there, what I've seen. Had a RAC meeting on Thursday and attended the Carnegie Museum Heritage presentation Friday night, which was very interesting because what they're doing to Carnegie every first Friday of every month, which is First Friday Art Walk, they have a presentation of somebody that has a century farm in the county and tell about it, how they've come about it and all. But this month it wasn't a century farm. It was he'd had it for 83 years. It was Roy Cowan. He'd had it for 83 years. It was very interesting. That wraps it up besides soccer and softball over the weekend.
I had, whoops, wrong page. I also attended the Tall Cop and I've been going around the gas stations looking to see what I can find, just for the heck of it.
Yeah.
I went so far as to type up my notes.
Really?
Yeah, and then I gave the girls. And some of the things that I'd written down, I shared with my family and stuff, but a lot of these words I can't pronounce, but I'm still struck by people ingesting liquid veterinary tranquilizers. The other thing I'm struck by is inhaling nitrous oxide. And I'm thinking about video games that I play like Need for Speed, and you have nitrous oxide in it, gives the car a boost. Well, I'm assuming it's supposed to do the same thing with the person, I don't know. But whipped cream, nitrous oxide, whippet canisters, but it's very addictive. Walmart also sells this Benzodrex,
Mhm.
and it is out in the open, like IV. And I don't know, it just, and then this synthetic heroin, 7-hydroxy, and but it's on the shelf, literally on the shelf, generally in a white bottle, and it says Roxy on it. So, but it's synthetic heroin.
Mhm.
Anyway, and then I happened to come across an article dated April 20th, that research shows that regular users of marijuana are at risk for serious conditions including strokes, heart attacks, cardiac arrhythmias, heart failure, myocarditis, which is an inflammation of the heart muscle. Now, an increased risk of dementia can be added to the list, according to a large study of more than 6 million people, published in April 14th in the Journal of American Medical Neurology. Someone who has an emergency room visit or hospitalization due to cannabis has a 23% increased risk of dementia within 5 years compared to someone who was at the hospital for another reason. A 72% greater risk compared to the general population. Those numbers have already factored out other reasons for dementia, such as age, sex, mental health, or substance abuse, whether or not you have chronic conditions such as diabetes or heart disease. Earlier research shows marijuana users are nearly 25% more likely to need emergency care and hospitalization than non-users. Just so it's not harmless. This in my process. And I think that's this week, I want to remind everybody that we have the hazmat tabletop on Thursday at 9 a.m. at
Cambridge,
Cambridge.
Cambridge building out there.
the fairground,
Okay, thank you.
Cambridge building.
I have McElhenney House tomorrow at 9 a.m. The doctor's appointment Wednesday. So I would entertain wait a minute, public comment? Hearing none, I would entertain a motion to allow claims and approved reports.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion?
How much?
Oh,
Oh, how much? I'm sorry. I don't know. I haven't even looked.
Oh, I sent it over there. Should have wiped it out, I guess.
In the amount of $97,099.12. We have a motion and a second to approve the claims again in the amount of $97,099.12.
So moved.
Second,
All those in favor say aye.
aye.
Opposed, same sign. Thank you. Oh, we're gonna have a budget amendment work session. It's on the agenda.
Yes.
So Shannon coming over, you do it.
The departments that need one are speaking to you about it.
Okay.
Like Chris spoke up before she left.
Oh,
Yeah,
Right.
okay, perfect.
Well, I'm still here.
Okay,
Yes.
can
I
we
knew
take
they're
a,
hanging around for something.
can we take a 2-minute break?
Yes,
Maybe
How about
3, I have to
three?
go
Three?
there also.
Okay.
4.
tread the stairs.
Let me-
I think Sharon just said she could bring up to the numbers.
Oh.
We brought in pizza money this week. So what kind of pizza we having?
Oh, Bart sent me something.
Where do you get your pizzas?
Better places.
Oh.
You gotta be smarter than the man that lets me out there.
That's it a word.
I know. And I appreciate that, but,
That's okay.
okay, I'm going to use a little wisdom and we'll be back.
All right.
I love it, so, right.
Oh. I went to granddaughter's softball tournament yesterday, 23 teams there.
Nice.
Wow. She played 5 games.
Nice.
Any improvement?
Yeah, I've got just a little bubble down the bottom of my eye now.
It's going
Really?
good,
But,
good. But does bright lights bother you?
a little bit. These and like my dashboard lights in the morning, I get a little bit of glare in it. Hopefully that will disappear.
No, the darkness won't disappear. It
No,
won't
the
get like that.
glare from the lights, hopefully when the bubble's gone, the glare will disappear with it.
Oh, oh. So. So you come down,
Come down Highway 1 and then through Pleasant Plain.
oh, okay, so you missed the construction over there then on this Avenue of Saints.
Oh, yeah,
I went through that twice yesterday.
I've tried that a couple of times and it's longer.
Oh, is it?
Yeah.
What's
It
that?
depends on the traffic.
Well, when there's no traffic, it's longer. It's about 10 minutes longer and 20 miles.
Oh, it's 20 miles difference than coming through one?
Yeah.
Oh, Lord, I didn't realize that.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, because you're going at an angle instead of
Oh,
sideways.
depends on
Maybe
the
not
time.
quite 72 minus, I think it's right at 90 from my house.
Yeah, it depends on the time of day, whether I take one or we'll get on that.
Do you see many buggies on one and then?
In the morning, not very often. Occasionally I'll see one that has they'll have the flashers on. It's more during harvest
Oh, yeah.
than.
You don't see any farmers out that time in the morning.
Occasionally.
Do you on
Yeah,
machinery?
do that out there.
Yeah, occasionally. They'll be on the shoulder with the flashers on. A lot of livestock trucks on the road early in the morning.
Yeah. They're on all hours, day and night.
Ready for me?
Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
I don't have a lot, just, let's see. I thought you might be interested in what the impact to the fund balances would be if you do the budget amendments that are being asked for.
okay,
So if you approve them all as proposed, your general basic fund, it would be $1,029 less than what you had proposed. That's for Ray's department. And then the rural basic fund, $1,537 less. And that was for your department. That's for that Rust delinquent accounts, which you'll be reimbursed for later. Then the road department, 53,100. Actually, the road fund, $53,185 less than the initial proposal, and that's it. Not, the other ones that are being requested won't impact your fund balances at all. That was really all that I thought. Most of them are just kind of grant money that they want to have the authority to spend, so feels like not much of an impact to your bottom line.
So these estimated fund balances are still as of January of 25.
I actually updated them if you want copies of this. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh. Oh, excuse me.
We used to do that in class when I was in high school.
Yawn?
Somebody was in front and turned around, and looked back and yawn, and go through the whole group. One teacher would get so upset at us.
So what's the basketball game yesterday?
No, I was softballing yesterday.
It was fun to watch
So,
on two fronts. One, everybody made such a big deal out of the Chicago Sky beating the Brazilian team by 27 points. Fever beat them by 64.
oh. Good.
If Aaliyah Boston could catch a pass and make a basket underneath,
Yeah. Yeah,
it would have been
their
more.
timing's a little bit off, but. Yeah, Chicago Sky gave up 64 points to that Brazilian team.
Yeah.
Fever gave up 34 or 44.
Thank you.
Thanks, Shannon.
This is what I came up with for yours.
Sure. When I looked at that American Rescue Plan, I saw that number, and I thought, what the hell? And I realized what it was. Kingman Fund. So use that to buy dog food?
Probably.
It's for the officers. Bart didn't hear that.
I don't, he might be on.
Oh, he's on.
Good general supplemental there.
There was no change to general supplemental. These are the only funds that there were any changes to
Oh, okay.
with the
Gotcha.
amendment.
I just want to see. Rocky Branch, the old Rocky Branch. Every time I see the word Rocky House. Good old Rocky House. Beautiful one to start seeing. Trust me, you're one to start seeing. So, any questions for Shannon? Or about the amendments, any fund balances?
Thing for me.
So. That. So these numbers look. Pretty good as far as you're concerned.
Yeah, yeah, I mean, I put together all of the regular information that I do for an amendment. But I didn't really make a bunch of copies of it just because everything was pretty much just passed through grant money and I didn't feel like it was gonna be I can make copies of it by line item if you want. I did email you the requests, so you've probably seen those already. Just all seemed pretty straightforward, but if you want more information, I've got everything I normally do prepared.
No, I mean, we're always concerned about ending fund balances, and so that's,
Yeah.
you know. I just, a pretty good chunk of change in general basic balance too.
But only $1,000 impact through this amendment.
Right. I did something wrong. Anyway,
Did you send that to Darcy?
I don't know.
I think she's the one that has worked with
That's
you on
just to get
that.
a calculator.
I'm gonna go show it when I'm done.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
So you have any questions, anything? For Shannon, anybody online have any questions? Or on Zoom, online, whatever it is?
Everybody's happy they had the access code.
Yeah. So we have to have a double check on that for next week, right?
Yep.
So you don't know yet, I'm sure, but you will find out, but what, this would have to have a different password each week then, potentially?
That's what I don't know.
Okay,
If it's gonna be the same, I'll just end up putting it on here.
so what you got penciled down here is that,
That's just my notation. I
Okay.
just had made some notes on that copy for the,
okay,
your notice, your proposed budget amendment is gonna appear in the newspaper this week.
okay. There's no other questions or business to come before the board, I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
So move. Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay. Thank you, everybody. Appreciate
you.
it.